Welcome, my dear students of Class 12, to this tele and radio tutoring with me, your Miss Atsinyo Sekose. And this is a continuation of our previous topic, that is, Let Me Not to the Marriage of True Minds. So now I'm sure you have already gone through your text and listened to the discussion. So very quickly, in this poem here, we are talking about a sonnet written by William Shakespeare, and we have discussed that he is talking about love. In fact, the theme of the poem is love. So we are going to discuss a little bit more in detail about the theme of the poem here. You may want to write down the first point here. He talks about love in a very different light. Now, if you take a look into your text, you will find that in the first stanza, in fact, in the title itself, he started off with a negative word that is not, denying, all right? And see, nobody ever, I'm sure you have never come across a person who goes and say, what is not your name, But we always go with, what is your name? Or what does this blackboard do? You see, that's how we think. But Shakespeare came up with a very brilliant idea by telling us more about what love is not, all right? He said that love is not something that is to do with infatuation. Love is not only for an hour or a week and so on. So first he pointed out what love is not. So that is the beauty of this sonnet here. He pointed out then what is love? According to Shakespeare, he pointed out these points. You may want to note down. He said, love is not love if it changes with changing times. If a circumstances changes, if situation changes, if it so happens that you come across a time where you face some difficult situations and you stop communicating with a person, or let's say in this case with the lover, then that does not mean that it is love. That's what he's trying to say here. And it does not succumb, or in fact, it does not give in or altered. We have already learned what is altered. It means change. It does not change. It does not give in into difficult times or hardships. Or we can also say here remover. Remover is representing difficult times, hardships, trials, or trying times, all right? So that's what we are talking about here. Love is not times full. The poet also cleverly pointed out that love cannot be fooled by time. In fact, love cannot be conquered by time, all right? Why? Because in certain situations, you will find that with time, we ages, we grow old, and we think that love has to do with only the time when we are young, okay? But that is not the concept that Shakespeare is talking about here. He is saying that it goes beyond that, okay? It is not only for a short period of time when you are young and in love and very active. We are not talking about that. It extended even to the time of old age and even beyond. That is, even in the times of death. It cannot be confined to a specific hour or week. One cannot measure the worth of love. You cannot put a price to love. So what is love then? I'm sure many of us are thinking, what is love then? If that is not what is love. An ideal love. We are talking about an ideal love that is a perfect love. You may want to note down these points. True love is the union of a balanced mind. Marriage, union of a balanced mind. There is equality balanced, all right? If it is not balanced, it will not be compatible at all. So we are talking about compatibility both in the sense as intellectually and in emotionally. Love is truthful, all right? Here, true minds here means being truthful, faithful, all right? It does not show any inconsistency in the face of hardship, It does not show any inconsistency in the face of hardship. Whatever hardships comes along, today you love somebody, next day you change your mind. It is not like that. It is consistent. You love a person yesterday, you continue to love that person in your old age until death and even beyond death. That is what the poet is saying here. You may also write down, he pointed out that love is permanent. It cannot be removed. Love is permanent. True love is brave and can overcome any hardship. So the kind of love that he's talking about is a brave love. True love guides. All right? True love guides, helps. Just as he has given the image of how lost sailors in the sea, they charted their route back to land by looking at the stars. Like the stars, true love is constant, it is permanent, it is fixed. True love cannot be fooled by time. True love cannot be fooled by time. In other words, love cannot be fooled by time. What does that mean here? It means here that time may take away certain things, maybe your physical appearance, maybe you would grow old, but still, if it is true love, it will still exist. In other words, true love remains for eternity. It is not only for the time being where we are living. So now very quickly, the summary of the poem here. The "Let me not to the marriage of true minds" is based on the theme love. The first stanza talks about what love is. Love is not love which alters when it alteration finds. Love is not love. If changes come and you change your mind, that is not love at all. Love does not give in or stops in trying times. The second stanza defines what love is. It is an ever fixed mark. It is the star to wandering bark. Nobody can really comprehend the worth of love. The third stanza said that love is not a fool to time. Even though time may take away or weaken us physically, true love remains. Love is permanent. In the last two lines, in the couplet, there is the change here. All right? In the previous lines, in the previous stanzas, you will find that he is only talking about what true love is not about, and in the other stanzas, he's talking about what true love is all about. But in the couplet, he is talking about a different thing here that is challenging the audience. If any man who exists and thinks that this is not the kind of the definition of love that he is giving, is not true love, then he is ready to forfeit his or his work and even his words. He said that with full belief and conviction, all right? So that is one of the fact that true love is unlike any other love. It is not a temporary romance, but is eternal. So now very quickly, we are going to take a look at the poetic device here. So what does poetic device mean? Poetic device is a literary term which is actually a tool, all right, to writing. Writers usually uses it in order to embellish or decorate their work, all right? And in other words, not just to decorate, but also to drive home certain points that they want to emphasize. So that is a poetic device. It is a literary device. There are two prominent poetic devices that you will find in our poem here. So the first one is a simile. We pronounced it as simile and not simile. So what is a simile? A simile is a poetic device, okay? It is a poetic device which compare two different things using the word like or as. In order to save time, very quickly I'll give you some example. So example on like. He's behaving like a fool. You know, you are comparing that person to a fool here. And walking like a tortoise, see, comparing two different things using the word like. Another example is like an angel. If a person, let's say that is very kind-hearted and who never speaks ill of other people, That means he or she is having a quality of an angel. So you are using similar qualities to compare, use it to associate it with the thing that you are comparing or the person that you are comparing. So simile uses the word like. So when there is a comparison using the word like, we can say that it is a simile. And the next one is as. We can go for some examples here. As ferocious as a tiger. Now, tiger can be very ferocious. And so, if somebody is very ferocious, or let's say a very hot-tempered person, you can say that he or she is very ferocious. So, we are using the word as to compare it, to compare the qualities of a tiger to that person. So, that is also a simile. I'm sure many of you are very familiar with the song line which says, she can't sing, she can't dance, but she walks like, I think you know who the person we are talking about here. So see, you are comparing it, all right? So that is also a simile. So the next poetic device we have here is metaphor. Now, what is a metaphor? A metaphor is very similar to simile. The first one that we have already discussed, that is like using comparing things using the word like and as. And metaphor also compare qualities, things, all right? But the difference that you will find here is that it does not use the word like or as. It does not use the word like or as. Instead, it would only suggest the idea, all right? It would only give us comparison using word. Earlier, I have given you the example of like an angel. So here, if we say like an angel, here is a simile, all right? But this is not a metaphor. Remember, metaphor also does comparison work, but we can say that she is an angel. So if I am saying this, she is an angel, or if you refer to a person as an angel, now you are comparing things. But what happened is that here you are not using the comparison word such as like or as. So this here is a metaphor. I hope you can differentiate that. And in our poem here, we have comparison. Like I said, we have a lot of poetic devices, but the poet William Shakespeare is using more of a metaphor, all right? And now we are going to discuss it. All right, so now here are some examples of metaphors from our poem here. You may want to underline. Love is, in fact, underline the word star, all right? Love is being compared to a star, all right? That is constant. Like I said, stars are permanent. And stars are permanent, and it also guides. So the author compared the true love, the ideal love, to a star. So we have the metaphor of star. So now, how can we say that it is a metaphor? In this case, it is not using the word like or as, but he simply stated, it is the star to every wandering bark. That's one of the metaphor that you will find. And you will also find that in lines such as, or words such as sickle, all right, time is being compared to a sickle. Okay, now why is that so? Because a sickle cuts off. We use it as a tool to harvest, all right? And likewise, time also takes away certain things, such as it may take away our physical appearance, it may also take away our loved ones and so on. But even in that kind of a situation, the kind of ideal love that Shakespeare is talking about is that it is permanent. Even in such kind of cases, it still stands firm. So these are some of the poetic devices that you will find in our poem, Let Me Not to the Marriage of True Minds. Now, the next thing we need to discuss here is the critical appreciation of the poem. You may want to note down these points. The poem has a unique feature. The poem has a very unique title, okay? Like I said, it started off with denying that I am not concerned any kind of worldly love here. He is saying, let me not fall in love if I do not have this ideal, perfect love. So in that way, it is very unique. Unique title. Then the next one, the poem began with what love is not. What love is not. It distinguishes what love is not and what love is. So here, in this way, using this poetic device metaphor and comparing it, what love is not and what love is, he brought out the idea of ideal love in a very clear way. The next point talks about a perfect love with conviction. He is very sure, all right? And that's why he even challenges the readers or the authors. Now, the next point is important. It blends in, you may write down eros, E-R-O-S, and agape, A-G-A-P-E, in the gray area perfectly. Remember, in our previous class, we were talking about the gray area, how critics were saying that William Shakespeare is a person who blends in, which means who mixes in the idea of black and white perfectly into a gray area, all right? We're going to talk that about a little bit more. Take the example of the background here. It's completely black. And take the example of the whiteboard here. Now, black and white are two colors that are very distinctive. It can be distinguished very easily. Now, when you mix it, what happens? You can also try this at home. You try to mix the color black and white, and it will turn into a gray color. So that is the gray color. William Shakespeare, remember, he has written almost everything under the skies, and he knows exactly what he was saying. And he is also someone who is able to explore, all right? Who is able to explore that gray area, which means not completely siding with this or that. Okay, so now coming to the word eros. Eros here is that kind of a love that has to do with sensual love, all right? But agape, that is different. We can say that, compare it to God's love, all right? There is nothing beyond that. However, Shakespeare here, he's talking about the kind of love that blends in both eros and agape, both sensual perhaps, but also the kind of love that withstands the test of time. So we usually refer to that kind of a love as God's love for us. But, like I said, he has perfectly blended in this gray area into the poem here, all right? And so that's why he's saying that love is constant. That is why he's saying that love is permanent, all right? That is why love is brave. Those things he was trying to put across to the readers. Another critical appreciation that you will find here is, just as we have discussed, these metaphors. You may find that when you read it, it may be a little difficult for you to understand, but as you understand, when you understand it, you started to appreciate it. Oh, this is done in such a beautiful manner, you know. That's how we can say that or appreciate the author's effort in the poem here. Now, critical appreciation, many students get confused thinking that the word critical has to do with only negative things, but you can write a lot of positive things, how you appreciate, how you find the poem a beautiful sonnet, all right? So all those points you can write down. Now we are going to take a look at the structure of the poem here. You may write down structure. So structure or style, we can see. I want you to take a good look at your poem there, and if you count the lines, remember in the earlier class we have talked about how the fact that the poem in a single line, it has 10 syllables. That is the unique writing style of the author, all right? So we are going to count it from here. When I say syllable, a syllable is a single unit of sound. So if I say let, that is one sound. Let me not to the marriage, which means marriage, two sounds. So 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. All right, 10 syllables, okay? That is the structure that he has in the line. And now I want you to pick up the syllables from the last word in the last line. So if we do that, you would find that the word minds, that is the last syllable, and love. In order to save time, I am going to point it out a little faster. Finds, move, remove. Move here is the last sound, so this should be taken as one syllable here. So and so on. So here, the rhyming scheme that we have here is A. You always start with the rhyming scheme A in the first line. Minds and love, it's not the same thing, so you would start, you would continue with B, A, B, and so on. So the rhyming structure or the sonnet structure of Shakespeare always is A, B, then you put a comma, C, D, comma, E, F, comma, and G, G. Now this is the couplet that we are talking about here. This is the couplet. And this is the unique feature of Shakespeare. So now, in one stanza, there are 4 lines, and in Shakespeare's sonnet, you have to write this down. If you can use bracket in your text and mark it. The first stanza has got 4 lines. The second stanza has got 4 lines. Those are called so we have 8 lines. Those lines are called octave, all right? 8. Octave, okay? Then, if you look into the next stanza, the third stanza is counted along with the couplet, okay? So with 4 lines plus 4 lines with the couplet. Couplet means 2. You can think about couple. When we say couple, we usually associate it with 2 people, so 2. So 4 plus 6, that gives us a 6. That means the rest of the lines are known as, I'll write it here, sestet, okay? So that is the structure that we have here, and it is a unique structure. Now, when I say it has got 10 syllables and it has these rhyming schemes, we learn to appreciate how the poet is trying to convey the message in a very clear manner. There is no word in the sonnet that is there by accident, all right? There is no word there in the poem by accident. The poet has chosen it very wisely, so the word represents so many different things, just as I have pointed out in one of the words, that is remover. It represents hardships, it represents trying times, and so on, all right? Now, very quickly, here are some tips as to how to go about with writing your questions. Just as we have done in the previous class and today's class, you will find that when you are asked to write about the summary, always begin with the topic, all right? In order to save time, I will not be writing that. Always begin with the topic and mention the author's name, and begin with a brief introduction on the poet. Then the fourth point, you give a brief introduction again. On the poem, all right? So now, that is what you would be having here, and only after that, you start from stanza 1, okay, and stanza 2, and so on. and then you conclude. So that's how you should be attempting your questions, as to give a summary of the poem, Let Me Not to the Marriage of True Minds, okay? All right, so now that's how you can attempt your questions, and I hope this lesson has given you a little more ideas as to how to go about with your reading poetry and your attempting your question and so on. Now, here is a very brief recapitulation of the summary of the poem here. The poem is about love itself, and not any ordinary kind of love, but about a perfect ideal love, all right? And the poet has also pointed out or distinguishes between what is not love and what is love. And in doing so, he brought out the idea of perfect love clearly. So you can mention all those things when you write or attempt your critical appreciation section. And now the poem is written in a sonnet form, which is 116, and it has we have already learned that it has a unique structure. Its unique structure, you can find it in the couplet. By using a couplet, he always throws a light or challenges the readers. And we can also say that by doing so, we are very clear with what love represents, all right? Love is not something that is associated with infatuation. Love is not that is for a brief moment. Love is much more than that. It is permanent. It is like a star. It guides a wandering ship. It guides the lovers to keep them together, and you will find that that is the kind of ideal love that he is talking about here. And on that note, we would be winding up today's class. Thank you all very much for joining me.